Bizarre Brain Comics. Hello, my comic book friends, and welcome to Bizarre Brain Comics. I am Gary, your host. And this is where I like to take a look at some older comics, talk a little bit about the characters and creators, and examine the stories, ouch, and the art. About a week or so ago, I showed a stack of Star Trek comics, and among them was this one here. This is Star Trek number 10 from Marvel Comics from 1981, and I thought I would take a look at it. The title caught my attention. Of course, this is in this issue, Spock the Barbarian, plus exclusive excerpts from the Starfleet's files. Well, today that we would call that title and this image clickbait, because Spock is not a barbarian, and is no way a barbarian. It would be more accurate to have Spock the caveman, and that still wouldn't be accurate. But it's all good fun, all in good fun. This is the Star Trek series done by Marvel Comics that started in 1979, shortly after the release of Star Trek: The Motion Picture, and the run began with the comics adaptation of that film, and then ran for a total of 18 issues from 79 to 81. It was written, at least this issue, I don't think he was the regular writer on the entire run, was Michael Fleischer, and who was, of course, very common and popular writer for DC Comics primarily in the 70s and 80s, and is best known for writing The Spectre and Jonah Hex. He did as far as I'm concerned, he did a great job on Jonah Hex. And it was drawn, penciler was Leo Duranona, with inks by Klaus Janson. Now, this run did not have the same creative team, but for most, if not all, of this run, Klaus Janson was the inker, and he helped maintain, because he has a strong style of his own, and when he inked the stuff, it maintained a continuity of appearance throughout the run, because he was earlier with at some point he was with Dave Cockrum, and it was almost impossible to even recognize it as Dave Cockrum. Of course, this was still fairly early Dave Cockrum, but and the penciler Leo Duranona, he was an Argentinian artist from 1938 to 2016, and of course he did stuff for the War and Horror magazines, and various comics, and he did. Through the 80s, he was largely a storyboard artist at studios like Hanna-Barbera for Disney and Universal, all through the 80s. And then back in the 90s, and he went back to comics. He did a lot of stuff for at Dark Horse on Predator, for their lines of Predator, Alien, and Alien versus Predator, and they had he was the first of a whole list of Argentinian artists working for Dark Horse on those lines. So that was just a little glance back. Now, and this, of course, not in this issue, but at this time, had come off Star Trek: The Motion Picture, which is generally considered the with the exception of Star Trek V, the Final Frontier, probably maybe they're tied for being the worst. Yes, it had a lot of problems. It was still a good fun movie. It brought back all of Star Trek really, and it was a successful movie at the time. But most people just hate the uniforms. Yeah, I can see why. And we'll be looking more into the uniforms. This is, okay, some fine artwork. And one of the ways I had some pretty decent work on the Starship Enterprise, which, whether you may not realize, is very difficult to draw accurately, realistically. And while they're far from perfect, it's do a pretty decent job. Probably not as good as Alberto Giolitti or even Al McWilliams at Gold Key before, at least on that. Has some good, pretty decent resemblances to the actors in here, and good visual storytelling. All that is fine. They're quality professionals. Here we go. Domain of the Dragon God. Okay, and here's the Enterprises come to check out on this planet. I've forgotten what the name was. Doesn't Barak 7. That has some just to investigate the unusual nature of its magnetic field, the planet's magnetic field, and they're just looking into that. They're no specifics, and they're going to go, and of course this strange magnetic field and stuff interferes with their sensors and transporters. So they're going to send down a survey party, and McCoy tells Kirk, "You can't come because this is doctor's orders. You're just getting over the flu." So he'll go with Spock instead. McCoy will go with Spock. And now that makes little sense right there, other than the writing. It's to get the buddies, the main characters in this situation. When in reality, this ship's going to have so many other scientists who are better qualified to conduct this survey along with Spock. But they have to go down in a shuttlecraft. So they go down in one of their shuttlecrafts. But then they have trouble because there are magnetic particles, magnetized particles, whatever stuff in the atmosphere which is hampering all their other equipment, and clogs the intakes of their engines and forces them down someplace other than their designated landing site. They come down, and while Spock is trying to clear the stuff away, McCoy looks around and he sees, these people, humanoid people, look like cavemen, and they're coming up to this pool, and it turns out it's a sacrifice, a human sacrifice. Well, just call it a human sacrifice of this woman going to be to some dragon god in the pit there, and she struggles, takes off, and she happens to run right towards him. McCoy had gotten Spock, and you can see that have a decent job at the artwork. Some parts could be more dynamic. This is pretty decent. Here, the fight scene, and they have their phasers set on stun, and they save the girl, start zapping them with a stun fire, which they are not supposed to do except extreme emergencies. And Spock orders McCoy to get the girl out of there because he can fight better by himself without having to be concerned with them. But his phaser is then hampered by the same problems that cause them their engine problem. And the girl is leading the McCoy to her. She was a slave. She's taking him back to her own tribe, where her brother is the head man. Meanwhile, Spock is led to this tribe with a great big head man. He is called Ragnarok, and he is a tyrant. and a would-be emperor, and he has all these slaves, and they're working on this mountain, carving out his likeness in the side of the mountain. And so they put, instead of just because they think Spock is some kind of shaman or magician, they put him to work instead of killing him outright. Meanwhile, all communication is lost. They don't know where Spock and McCoy are, and Kirk is getting concerned. So because they have run longer than their designated survey time, since their communication is all screwed up. So Spock is put to work, and he winds up getting in more trouble when he helps an old man who's being brutalized, takes the guy out, trying to show him a better way than just main physical strength to move some of these big large rocks by using a lever. They don't like that, says that's magic, and knocks him in the head. Meanwhile, the girl and McCoy get to her brother's tribe, her home tribe, and they welcome McCoy, thank him, and he says, "We got to get help. Go get my friend." And she encourages them to go get help. I said, "Sorry, they're too big, too strong, too many of them that we wouldn't stand a chance." And their main weapon is the club. The bad guy's main weapon is the club too. They're just bigger and stronger, and more of them. So McCoy's looking around while he's there in the evening, and he sees some various promising plants, and he quickly whips up a crude bow and arrow, gives them a brief demonstration, and says, "See, with these weapons, you can overcome your enemies." And so they quickly make some crude bows and arrows, and a brief instruction lesson period, and then they're off. Meanwhile, Kirk is saying, "Oh, okay, this is getting too long. We gotta find Spock and McCoy." And meanwhile, Spock is, while they're being bedded down for the night, the slaves are being bedded down for the night. That's when McCoy and his new people are come and surprise attack. Boom! Arrows, let arrows fly, killing lots of them. Doot doot doot. Spock responds and starts taking out some of the guards so that people can be freed. And here Ragnarok and the other guy, I've forgotten his name, the girl's brother. Oh, he's a great big fellow with a big old war club. He would planning to make short work of this smaller fellow, but the smaller fellow makes short work of him with a bow and arrow. So yay, victory! We won! Now we're not going to change that, and we're going to put my face on it. But what? This is Dr. McCoy. You may have done something terrible. Of course, this is against the Prime Directive. And it says, "Now get the slaves back to work, and we'll make my image on there, and we'll." So this guy who complained about the mistreatment and stuff of the other guy, now, which so often happens, takes place. They do just takes his place and does exactly the same thing. How many times have we seen that in revolutions? Some of the third world countries around the world, when complaining about a dictator, go in and overthrow the dictator, and then take his place and become the dictator themselves. It happens all the time. Then when Spock and McCoy object, said, "Okay, we're going to take no more objections," and they go to attack McCoy and Spock. Just when another shuttlecraft arrives, they found out the problem of the other one and took care of it. They're doing okay. Snatch up Spock and McCoy and head back. And did they ever find out anything about the magnetic field of that planet? No. And that's the end of the story. Then it's followed up. It's from the files of Starfleet Command Headquarters. And this is probably for the originally character designs. These were drawn by Dave Cockrum. I mean, probably the character designs for their for the artists, for consistency of the artists, so they know what they're to do. Has the uniforms, their rank insignia, and etc. I don't know what's that. Yeah, and shows what each of the uniforms should look like. You can see all kinds of the rank insignia, badges, departments, etc., etc. And that's kind of neat. And then it's wound up with Iron Man versus the Bank Robbers. Hostess fruit pie advertisement. And doesn't say who the artist is. I will just say on a whim, without looking closely, probably Sal Buscema. I don't know. But so that's all I've got for you this time with Star Trek number 10 from Marvel Comics, Spock, the Barbarian. I tell you, I had many years ago, I had conceived of an idea that would be like a Star Trek, a sword and sorcery crossover, and have a situation in which Spock and Kirk and company were in a situation not unlike this, except it was with wielding swords, so having to be barbarians for a time, etc. But of course, that would be fan fiction, and I never got it written, but I still have it in my head. So just for fun. So thank you for joining me. Please like, share, and subscribe. And do leave your comments down below. What did you think of this particular Star Trek run, if you've ever read it? Have you read it? Are you a Star Trek fan? Which run do you in comics do you happen to like best? Personally, I like the DC run best. I think they had the best writing overall. So let me know anything you have to say in the comments down below. And remember, comics are art.